I now call the Legislation Committee to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey.
Present.
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present. I'm sorry.
Alderman Muhammad.
Present.
Alderman Narayan. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Got you, Alderman.
Here.
Chairwoman Negracia.
Present.
7 present, you have quorum.
Thank you very much. We do not have to move forward with order of business 3. We have all aldermen present. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes from the Tuesday, May 26th meeting in their Google Drive. If you've had a chance to an opportunity to review those, I would entertain a motion to pass those.
I move for the approval of the Tuesday, May 26th minutes.
We need a second.
I'll make that second.
Thank you, Alderman Vaccaro. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Pass.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairwoman Negracia.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
I am trying to look at, I wasn't sure if I made that meeting. I can't open up the minutes for some strange reason. So I'm going to abstain.
I don't believe you are present, Alderman Boyd.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. I'm going to abstain.
6 aye votes and 1 abstain.
Thank you. We will now move on to Board Bill number 77, presented by Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Legislation Committee. Does everyone have a copy of Board Bill 77?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have one.
Good. With that, Madam Chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to introduce amendment number 1 to Board Bill 77.
I'll make a motion that we introduce, we make a motion to introduce amendment number 1 to Board Bill
Second.
77. Sorry, I was kicked out of my room, so I'm at a new location.
I apologize. I'm opening my drive because I didn't realize there was an amendment.
It was sent via email, Madam Chair, from the Chief Clerk.
Okay. Do you know when it was sent?
53 minutes ago at 10:14 a.m.
I'll check it out. Thank you. Okay, I see it now. Sorry about that. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey.
Aye. This is to put the amendment before us. Is that correct? Or
That's correct.
yeah, aye.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Ryan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Chairwoman Negracia.
Aye.
7 aye vote.
Please proceed, Alderman, from the 21st.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amendment number 1 to Board Bill 77 changes the election date. Due to the time crunch we are in, we will not have enough time to put this on the November 2020 ballot. So this amendment changes the election day to the general election of next year, the same time that the mayor runs, along with odd number ward aldermen, to April 6th of 2021. And it just simply changes the day because of the time constraints that we are in. Board Bill 77 in its totality, in its entirety, allows residents to vote again on ward reduction. We have been through this for 3 years now, so we all know the arguments. I am pretty confident that each of us know where we stand on the issue and know where our voters stand on the issue. And I can say this: North St. Louis voters want a chance to re-vote. North St. Louis is not properly educated on Proposition R, as it was called at that time in 2012. And it's without a fact, without a doubt, that this plan to reduce the number of wards without a comprehensive strategy or transition plan will negatively affect communities that are already experiencing disenfranchisement and a lack of city services and just a lack of investment from City Hall in general. So this gives it back to the voters, letting them choose again on how they want the future of their government to look. Our voters have voted down ward reduction several times prior to 2012. And this is asking them one more time before we take this gigantic step and somewhat irresponsible step of reducing the number of wards without a solid plan. It asks them one more time, how do you want the future of your government to be set up, and what do you want to see happen with our ward system, whether it's 28 wards or 14. So it gives it back to the voters. Because we know that reducing wards is not efficient. It's not efficient in terms of transparency, and it's not efficient in terms of equity. And this will not, this will not provide productivity, or it won't give us some sense entitlement that our government is somewhat better, because again, we do not have a comprehensive plan. And with that being said, it is the belief of the African American Alderman Caucus that we will not have a comprehensive plan within 2 years, because a plan has not been developed in the last 10 years. So with that, Madam Chair, I have no further comments on the board bill itself. I will entertain questions if the members of the committee have any.
Thank you. Alderman Rhodey?
Alderman, I think you and I think you're aware that you and I disagree on this issue. But I raise this next point not to be an obstructionist, because I believe you should have your day before the board to be able to cast your vote. So I plan on voting against this, but I do want to check with you if you, as we speak, the law of the land is that the next election is for odd number wards with a 2-year term. And if you change the date of the election to March, in essence, people will be running for
April, Mr. April, Alderman. It has to be in a general election.
Okay,
Well,
that's even a bigger deal, because if I'm not mistaken, if that's the law of the land now, and we have people running in the March primary and particularly in the April general election, it is under the assumption that here, I didn't even have my video on here. It is under the assumption that that they are running for a 2-year term. And so if you can't retroactively alter that, it's like, I don't think you can. To me, I think that's like, for example, there's very strict rules about how we give ourselves pay raises. We cannot give ourselves a pay raise during a term. So the only way you get a pay raise is that the new pay schedule is in effect before the election is held. So in essence, what you're talking about doing is extending the term of the office for an extra 2 years, which I don't think is possible. But I'm not an attorney, and I certainly would not want to render an opinion, but I would be very concerned about just changing that date without having that run by somebody. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Well, Alderman, in the legislation that was previously passed under Phyllis Roman Young back in 2012, that legislation says that the election for a reduced number of wards will take place in 2023, not 2021. And it also explicitly says you were a co-sponsor on this legislation along with 13 other aldermen or former aldermen. It also says that the reduction cannot take place until we receive the information back from the U.S. Census. With that, we know every 10 years we district our number of wards as we're supposed to by city charter and by federal guidelines. And we don't get the information back from the census until, early or middle 21. So we will reduce the number of wards in 2023, as it says in a board bill that was passed in 2012, signed by Mayor Slay.
Right, and by my recollection, you're certainly looking at this closer than I am, but we would be running in March primary, April general election of 2021. That would be for a 2-year term. And in 2023, 7 of the wards would be for a 4-year term, and 7 of the wards would be for a 2-year term. So in essence, when you're running next March, you're only running for a 2-year term. And what your legislation, I think, is proposing is that you're proposing to extend that to a 4-year term, which you can't do at.
Not exactly, Alderman. It's a charter amendment. It will be going to the voters asking them, do they want to see the wards reduced in 2023?
Right, but
so it's not extending. It's not extending the terms. It's asking voters, do you want to see wards reduced?
We would end up having. We would end up having all 28 wards running then in 2023.
Alderman, no, it would. With my understanding, it would be the exact same as it is now. Odd number wards and even number wards run at different times. Again, this goes to the voters in April of next year. So the process of ward reduction doesn't start until 2023.
Right, but everybody is running next March and April. They are running for a 2-year term. So their terms will be up in 2023, and then the even number wards terms will be up.
Unless this board bill passes the Board of Aldermen and it's approved by the voters, then that won't be the case. Because so right now we're talking about ifs and probability and a possibility, right? So I can't really speak to that because we really don't know what's going to happen until this goes to the ballot box, which I've been trying to get to the ballot box for the last 3 years. So I can't really say what will happen. I can only go off our actions from now. So if we send this to voters in April and they voted down in April, then there is no there is no big imaginary change that's going to take place in
Well,
23. Rather, we're running.
I guess,
two.
Alderman, let's say that they approve it and they say, they agree with you and they say, oh, we're not gonna reduce the number of wards. Then are you saying that that's gonna magically add 2 years to the odd number?
Well, it's not magically, Alderman. We will go off the city charter. So if our city charter says that Alderman have 4 years, then it will be 4 years. The same way that this particular board bill really did not lay out a plan for transition. The board bill that we're sponsoring kind of does give a plan, because if this goes to voters and it's approved, then the Board of Aldermen will stick to its regular routine that's already in the charter
Well,
as far as elections.
my sense is that your interpretation of that is wrong. I certainly, you know, we disagree on whether or not the voters should get this, and I'm not here to argue with you about it. But I think you might want to check out that scheduling, because I think that really creates a problem. I have no other questions though. Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you, Alderman.
Alderman Boyd,
No questions.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Yeah, just comments. So, you know, even if it did come to that and we ran for the 2 years, then we can run for the additional 2 years later. I can tell you, I still disagree with this. I disagreed with this at the time. And all the money was spent, you know, Scott Ogilvy and Fred Wessels and all them, they all put the committee together. There was a big grandfather clock, time is ticking. Everything was sent to the south end of the city. It was put out as a lie about all the money that's going to be saved. Actually, it's going to cost more money. It's going to be less representation and cost more money. Everybody's complaining about, oh, we signed this petition for the airport, and gee, the people lied to us about what was on the petition. Yet the Board of Aldermen, at least a group of the aldermen that aren't even there, actually, a few of them got some pretty good high-paying jobs. Anyway, the money was all spent here, and it was just a lie. There is no money savings. It's going to cost more money. The people were told a lie. How about this was on the ballot 4 times prior to this? This is something that will certainly cut away the amount of representatives we have that are Black. And I have issues. I mean, for my part, I'm toward the end of whatever. I'm not running until I'm 100 years old. I'm 66, I'm 65, I'll be 66. I'm not running forever. But this was a big lie that was told to people. And I can tell you from people in the 23rd Ward that talked to me, once they understood, they get it. I would, and it barely passed last time. And it still would take 61% to change it this time. And I think if we tell the people the truth, instead of all this made up stuff, the outcome would be way different. People like to have their aldermen represent them. You're going to create, instead of taking 15 of us, then it's going to take 8. It creates opportunity for a lot more easier stuff. It seems like the people that had money were the ones that want to see this. I completely disagree. I am a massive supporter of this. If anybody feels this is self-serving, it's not, because again, I'm not going to be here forever. But I can tell you it was missold to the people. I'm very concerned about how the city will be split up. I'm very concerned about how my neighborhood will be represented. So I'm an absolute definite yes vote on this. And I can tell you that not just along with the caucus, I think that the people have a right to know the truth. Anyway, other than that, Madam Chairwoman, I'll just sit back and listen.
Alderman Ryan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Alderman Muhammad, I know that you and I don't always see eye to eye on everything. I know we've talked about this issue in depth, and we tend to find some common ground here. I know that when we had spoken previously, the idea was to be looking towards the November ballot on this. And then I know, through nobody's fault here, COVID-19 happened and kind of threw a wrench into everything. Is there still sufficient time to get this onto the November ballot?
No.
Okay.
No, I wish
Okay.
it was, but no.
Okay. All right. Well, this had my support before for many of the reasons that we had talked about that I don't need to make everyone listen to me over and over ad nauseum about. So with that, this will have my support to go on the April ballot. I do share some of the concerns that Alderman Rhodey brought up. That's kind of why I was wanting it on the November ballot, to make sure that we could address any of those, kind of hyper technicalities with this. So I guess I would encourage anyone supporting this, including myself, to make sure that we have the nuts and bolts figured out, so that we don't end up with a technical issue going into the next election, that we at least have some idea of what those odd number ward elections should look like. And thank you for your work on this, and I have nothing further.
Madam Chair, can I make a comment?
Yeah, let me get through the list first, please.
Okay.
Thanks. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I do support this wholeheartedly. I will vote for it today. I will vote for it on the floor, and I will definitely be voting on this on the April ballot, prayerfully. I share most of the same concerns that Alderman Vaccaro had. So thank you for your tenacity and for your persistence with this, Alderman Muhammad. And I hope that we can get it worked out this time.
I think we have several members of the board that are not on the legislation committee. Alderwoman Davis, do you have any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I don't know if I have questions. I probably just have comments, because most people know that I was a supporter of this bill before, but I also have always been one to try to compromise somehow, some way. And because so many people came to me directly and wanted to have an opportunity to revisit this, I have chosen to support them in this idea. And that's why I had put the resolution out for the state government to make sure that all of the committee people stayed in place, even if it was reduced to 14, because they had sincere concerns about it and have voiced them very clearly. And I had to listen. There's no doubt about it. And what most people don't know is, at the end of the day, there's nothing in it for me supporting it or not, because the 19th ward would disappear. So I'll be putting myself out of work, and I'm okay with that. But I want to make sure everybody's okay. This city can't function well if it is not driven by a majority of people who want to work together. And if we're going to be separate on major issues, most especially, it's not going to be healthy for our community as a whole. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that people understood that there is a way to work this out. It does not necessarily have to be the odd wards that are coming up now for election in March. You could start the process with the even wards, but that is if it fails. But what I'm saying is, we have got to, let's just send it to the voters. we can still move forward with our normal process. And we also still have time to get any kind of legal opinions done and get things corrected and or halted if it is not something that is feasible. But in the spirit of, you know, first of all, for me, I want to keep my promise. I promised the committee people. I remember one evening, Jesse Todd and I had a long conversation, and I promised him that I would support this initiative. And I promised a few others. So I'm just holding on to what I said I would do. And I don't have any issues with it, because I think that at the end of the day, if it works out, we'll move forward. If it doesn't, we'll move forward. So we're going to be okay. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Happy to do it. Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard, do you have any questions? Alderwoman Navarro?
No, I'm sorry. I was able to just join now, but thank you.
No worries. Alderman Gunther?
No questions, just listening. Thanks, Alderwoman.
Yep. Oh, it looks like we have Alderwoman Middlebrook as well. Do you have any questions? Alderman Todd, do you have questions? And Alderwoman Grass, do you have any questions?
Nope, just listening and learning.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sure. Alderman Vaccaro, I'm just looping back to you before we move on.
So I'm just thinking of the date stuff. If, you know, and we could always amend this back on the floor, but there is a way to get it on the November ballot, and that would be if we second read and perfect it tomorrow, and we all vote for one more meeting, we technically could get this on the same November ballot, which we can actually bring up on the floor. If I'm right, and I would defer to Alderman Boyd. He may know the rules a little better, but it would seem to me that if we pass it out of committee today, second read, suspend the rules to perfect it tomorrow, it would go to engrossment, and it would just take one additional meeting, which would get this back onto the November ballot. And that's just my thoughts, and we can do all that on the floor. I think.
Thank you, Alderman. Yeah, I'd like to just inquire of the sponsor, if I may, because when we spoke last, I think there was still an opportunity that I think you and President Reed were looking at for the possibility of passing this with the November ballot. I'm inclined to be able to vote for this, to put it on the floor for Alderman to be able to weigh in on this in totality. But I share Alderman Rohde's concerns about the date. I do think a November election, especially this one, is going to have a much higher turnout. And so my preference would be that we explore that option. What are your thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. And Alderman Vaccaro, I will consult and discuss and seek the advice from the senior alderman of the African American Alderman Caucus before I agree to such.
And I'm not suggesting anything. I was just throwing that out there, and I was just throwing it out there, and it certainly could be done on the floor. But I agree with you. I'd like to hear what Alderman Boyd has to say myself.
Alderman Boyd, it sounds like you've got a couple people asking you to weigh in on this.
Sure. I believe Alderman Vaccaro is technically we could suspend the rules and perfect it. The challenge is it would have to be a special meeting called, and a majority vote of the Board of Aldermen to have the special meeting called. At this point, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball if that's something the president would be amenable to. If it would get all those votes, time is certainly of the essence.
Well, why don't we do this? Alderman from the 21st, are you amenable to looking into this afternoon and evening. I can call. Oh wait,
Well-
that won't work time wise.
Well, no, but can I wait
Yes.
on this? If we
Go
pass
ahead,
it,
Alderman.
if we pass it the way it is with the amendment for the April election, if the alderman and it gets a chance to talk to the president and chooses, he can always re-amend it back tomorrow on the full floor. If it looks like it's going to be impossible, you know, my thing is I think we pass it out with the amendment. I think the votes are here anyway, but I think we pass it out with the amendment for the different date, and then if it works out, we can always in perfection change things back, because it would be second read, and then at least that would give Alderman Muhammad the chance to see. I think we would have.
Alderman Vaccaro, if I could just I would like to, we're all talking about what the sponsor of the bill should do. So I'd like for him to be able to weigh in on what his thoughts are for today moving forward. I'm happy to take a vote on it with the amendment or pause.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like for us to pass this out today. And if there is sufficient information for us to amend the bill and still get to November ballot, I will be open to that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 77.
I will make a
recommendation.
I make a motion to pass Board Bill with due pass recommendation. I heard a second, but I forgot who it was.
I'll second it.
Great. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Alderman.
No.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro?
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad?
Aye.
Alderman Ryan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Alderwoman Gracia?
Aye.
6 aye votes and 1 no vote.
All right, by your vote, we have passed Board Bill 77 out of legislation with the due pass recommendation.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman, did we adopt the amendment? I had to step out for a second. So I don't know if the amendment was adopted.
We did vote on it. Would you like us to do it again for the record?
No, someone was doing it. Someone else was doing it. So it's coming out as 71 as amended.
That's correct.
Actually, I'm not sure if we did do that. We put the amendment before us.
Right.
But I don't think we adopted the amendment.
Okay.
No,
So-
I believe Alderman Boyd is correct, Chairwoman.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to step out for a second and I wasn't sure.
Thank you
So
for catching that.
Then I would make a motion that we pass Board Bill, I can't think of the number,
77.
77 as amended, and I apologize.
It was not amended. The problem was not amended. So we're going to have to, I believe, reconsider the vote on passing the board bill out.
Right.
And then go back and pass the amendment, and then it becomes as amended. So having voted on the prevailing side, I move to reconsider the vote on Board Bill 71. Is that
77.
right? 77, thank you. Board Bill 77.
Second.
Previous roll.
roll.
No, we had some no votes on the previous roll.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey?
Aye.
Alderman Boyd?
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro?
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad?
Aye.
Alderman Ryan?
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
Aye.
Chairwoman Gracia?
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Okay, now I will entertain a motion to pass Amendment 1 to Board Bill 77.
I move to adopt amendment number 1 to Board Bill 77.
And I'll second that. I'm sorry. I think Britt Narayan seconded it. I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd.
Alderman Rhodey's first.
I'm sorry, Alderman Rhodey.
I'm sorry, this is the vote on the amendment, or is this a vote on the underlying bill?
The amendment.
The amendment, aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairwoman Negracia.
Aye.
7 aye votes.
Okay, now I will entertain a motion to pass out Board Bill 77 as amended.
I move to pass Board Bill 77 out as amended with a due pass recommendation.
And I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Rhodey.
No.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Chairwoman Negracia.
Aye.
6 aye votes and 1 no vote.
We have passed Board Bill 77 as amended out of legislation. If there is nothing else to discuss, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make
So
a
moved.
motion, yeah. That we adjourn.
All right. Thanks,
And
everybody.
Thank you for holding this. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Take care.
Okay.